You are watching the Lore Masters, the #1 place for competitive Lorcana content. Now, let's do it.
Hi guys, it's James from the Lore Masters, and we are back with part 2 of our set review for Rise of the Floodborn. This time we are going through all of the Amethyst cards. We're going to be doing one of these colours every single day, so be sure to subscribe so you can keep an eye on all of them. But yeah, let's get through it. Right, so first up is 3-drop Uninkable Arthur, Wizard's Apprentice. He's got 1 power, 3 toughness with 1 lore point. And his ability is, whenever this character quests, you may return another chosen character of yours to your hand to gain 2 lore. So very cool ability, quite a unique ability. However, I feel you're only going to get this ability off once, and then your opponent is going to challenge it and beat it. And because it hasn't got a very large toughness or a very large power stat, it's unlikely to cause any damage in the combat. So if you're fine with just using it once, then fine. Or just finding a way to ready it to bring it out of harm's way, brilliant. Other than that, I don't think it will see much competitive play, which is a shame because there is an enchanted rare of it. Okay, so next we've got 2-drop Blue Fairy, Rewarding Good Deeds. She is a 1/1 with 1 lore point. She has evasive, which is always good. And the ability, whenever you play a Floodborn character, you may draw a card. So very, very good. The evasive will allow it to protect itself from combat. If you're obviously playing a heavy Floodborn deck, then by all means use this card, because card draw is always going to be good. But obviously you need to be making sure you're playing enough Floodborn to make this character worth it, because if you're only running a few, then maybe this slot is best used somewhere else. But yeah, I do like this card if you can build around it. Okay, so we got 1-drop Chip the Teacup, Gentle Soul. He's a 2/2 with 1 lore point. He's basically the Archimedes of the set. So if you are in need of a 1-drop 2/2 vanilla, then by all means use it. But yeah, if you weren't going to use Archimedes previously, you won't use this guy. Okay, so we got 4-drop Dr. Facilier, Savvy Opportunist. So he's a 4/2 with 1 lore point and evasive. There are better evasive cards than this guy. The fact he's only got 2 toughness as well, he's going to just get hit by a grab your sword, or even a fire the cannons, something really simple. He's just not worth it. If he had 1 more toughness point, maybe. He is also a villain, so that is relevant for a couple of the Ruby cards in this set as well. But yeah, I just think there's better evasive cards out there. Right, so you got 4-drop Elsa, Gloves Off. So she's a 3/4 with 1 lore point and Challenger 3. So this is not a bad little common at all. So the fact she goes to 6 power when she swings is very relevant. 4 toughness is quite good as well. I don't think she's constructed playable, but I think she'd be an absolute bomb in a sealed or a draft event. So if you do see this card in pack, be sure to put it into your deck because it will do you well. Cool, so we've got 5-drop Fairy Godmother, here to help. So she's a 3/7 with 2 lore points and no ability. This one's just pack filler, to be honest. There is a Fairy Godmother with shift in these colours, which we'll see very shortly. But I don't think this is probably the one to use with it. There we go. So 5-drop Legendary Fairy Godmother, Mystic Armourer. So she's 3 power, 4 toughness with shift 2, and 2 lore points. And whenever this character quests, your characters gain Challenger +3, and whenever this character is banished in a challenge, return this character to your hand. So, very, very cool card if you can go fairly wide with cheaper characters, because they can crash into your opponent's stuff, get a massive power boost, and return them all back to their hand. So, bearing in mind that you are losing tempo to do that, but the card advantage that you gain from all of the trades will probably be worth it. I wish there was a cheaper Fairy Godmother to shift this onto, but it is what it is. But I think this will see play. I'm just not sure what shell I'd put it in. Okay, so here's a cheaper Fairy Godmother. So 3-drop, Pure Heart, 3 power, 4 toughness, which is a good stat line. 1 lore point, and whenever you play a character named Cinderella, you may exert chosen character. So it's almost like Elsa from the first set. Obviously, you need to be playing a decent amount of Cinderellas to make that worth it. But this is probably the Fairy Godmother that you'd shift into if you were going to play one to shift into. You don't necessarily need to, you could just play the 5-drop on its own. But yeah, unless you're not playing a large amount of Cinderellas, this card's probably not worth it. Okay, so 2-drop Hey Hey Persistent Presence. So he's a 2/1 with 1 lore point. Whenever this character is banished in a challenge, return this card to your hand. Very, very cool. I was considering it for a couple of my deck lists, but the fact he doesn't return when he's killed by like damage, like grab your sword, or just removal spells in general, made it so it didn't quite make the cut into one of my decks. But I think he'd be quite good in a draft or a sealed event as just like a constant card. But yeah, I think he's quite cool. Certainly better than the Hey Hey out of the first set. Okay, so we got 2-drop Jiminy Cricket, Pinocchio's Conscience. 1 power, 2 toughness with Evasive. Oh, Evasive is always good. And whenever you play this character, if you have a character named Pinocchio in play, you may draw a card and 1 lore point. So it replaces itself if you have a Pinocchio. So obviously if you are playing Pinocchio in your lists, then this card is worth playing. There is a Pinocchio that we will see very shortly that has 3 lore points and it is a 2-drop. So this card is probably worth playing with it as well, because it has got Evasive and you draw a card when it comes in, it is worth doing. So yeah, if you're playing that Pinocchio, I would say give this card a go as well. So we've got 2-drop Cuzco Wanted Llama. So he's 1 power, 2 toughness. Whenever this character is banished, you may draw a card, 1 lore point. A very strong common. You can play this in any myriad of decks. You can play this in aggro, you can play this in control, if you've got space for it. Because you can aggressively quest with this card. You really don't care if it does get killed because you're going to get to draw a card. You could also pair this with Teeth and Ambitions in Ruby. So you could deal 2 damage to this, 2 damage to your opponent's things, and you get to draw a card when this card is banished. So yeah, if you're wanting early game draw that also is a body, this card may be worth playing. Okay, so 3-drop Madam Mim Fox. So she's 4 power, 3 toughness. Whenever you play this character, banish her or return another character of yours to your hand with 1 lore point. She also has Rush. I'm a big fan of this card, especially if you are running the Merlin forms, because it's a nice aggressive bit of Rush in Amethyst, whereas the cheapest one beforehand was Rafiki, which is uninkable. So if you play a 2-drop on turn 2, you can follow this up by returning it to your hand and then playing this. There is other Madam Mims you can use, which is the snake form as well. So you could use them together to create a lovely Amethyst bounce deck. But I am using this in an Amethyst Ruby shell, which I'll be showing on a deck profile on the channel today as well. So be sure to check that out. But yeah, very, very good. I am playing this over Rafiki myself. Ah, what a disappointment this one is. So 7-drop Madam Mim Purple Dragon. So 5 power, 7 toughness with Evasive. You know how I feel about Evasive, always good. But the problem is when you play this character, banish her or return another 2 chosen characters of yours to your hand. 4 lore points is very, very good. It's that returning 2 to your hand that is the problem. So it's very good, but you're going to be putting yourself massively behind to return 2 of your characters just to play this. A lot of the times Brave Little Tailor was cut from control lists because it's just too slow. This card will probably be the same way. The fact that you're bouncing 2 of your characters as well puts a lot of people off. I could be wrong, people could play it, but I just don't think it's just too much of a tempo loss for you to play this card with just not a massive amount of payoff. Okay, so 5-drop Madam Mim, Rival of Merlin. So she's a 2 power, 5 toughness with Shift Free. 2 lore points, and you can exert her. Play a character with cost 4 or less for free. They gain Rush. At the end of the turn, banish them. So originally this card was designed to drop one of the Merlin forms, get to challenge something with it, and then you can return it to hand to play a Madam Mim card, for example, and then it wouldn't get banished. So that's quite cool. Is it necessary? Probably not. There is a cool little combo that you can do that somebody pointed out to me. If you did have this card on board with the 7-drop Dr. Facilier, and also a 2-drop Ruby LeFou in hand, this card creates almost like an infinite loop of damage as long as your opponent has got exerted characters. So you would exert this to play LeFou. LeFou would then activate this card. You would crash LeFou into something and return it to hand with the Dr. Facilier, and you just rinse and repeat until your opponent's board is clear. So that's a nice little combo that you can do with this card anyway. Is it realistic? Probably not, but, you know, I just don't think this card has got a place in the meta just yet. I could be wrong, though. Okay, so 2-drop Madam Mim Snake, so it's a free. Again, when you play this character, banish her or return another chosen character of yours to your hand, 1 lore point. So these characters are overstated because of that bounce effect, so giving yourself a free vanilla on turn 2 is pretty good. It allows you to kind of challenge anything around that sort of cost-wise easily. So I'm using this together in a Ruby Amethyst list as well, just to deal with kind of early aggression. But yeah, it's quite good. Obviously, it's good to return your enter the battlefield effects as well. But yeah, I enjoy using them. So I use this together with the Fox that we just saw a moment ago as well. Okay, so we've got 3-drop Merlin Crab. He's a free with 1 lore point. Whenever you play this character and whenever he leaves play, chosen character gains Challenger +3. So he's not a bad card. I don't think he's going to make the cut in a lot of Madam Mim decks, because there are just better Merlin forms, which we'll see shortly. But he's not a bad choice overall if you really did want to play them. But yeah, I just don't think he'll make the cut, sadly. Okay, so 4-drop Merlin Goat. He's a 4/3 with 1 lore point. Whenever you play this character and whenever he leaves play, gain 1 lore. Now, it's funny that he's called Goat because he really is a goat. Greatest of all time Merlin. He is incredible. So the fact that he's a guaranteed 2 lore points because when he enters and when he leaves, you're going to gain 2 lore. You can also use him to combo different things. If you bounce him back to hand with one of your Madam Mims, you get to gain that lore point and then replay him and gain another one. Very solid 4-drop. In the Ruby Amethyst, there wasn't a whole lot of decent 4-drops that you could play. Now there is. So yeah, very cool card. I recommend if you are playing Amethyst, you should be playing 4 copies of this card. Okay, so 4-drop Uninkable Merlin Rabbit. So he's 2 power, 3 toughness. Whenever you play this character and when he leaves play, you may draw a card, 1 lore point as well. So similar to the Goat, he is very good. Unsure how many is the correct number to play, because it all depends on how many other Uninkables you are playing. I currently play 2 copies, because I prefer to still play Magic Mirror in my control list. But that may go to 4 copies if I find there's a lot of item removal in the game. So yeah, very good. Works well with a lot of the Amethyst cards, which we'll see very shortly. But good to just draw a card when he enters, when he leaves, because even if they kill it, you really don't care. But he's designed to work with the Madam Mim cards, so you're just constantly drawing cards. And you'll see a nice little combo towards the end of this video that you can use with this as well, so make sure you stay tuned. Okay, so we got the 4-drop Merlin, so Shapeshifter, 1 power, 5 toughness. Whenever one of your other characters is returned to your hand from play, this character gains +1 lore this turn. He's too slow, it's really not worth it. Even though you could use it in a Madam Mim deck, I just don't think you're going to realistically gain a massive amount of lore points from it. So I just probably don't think this one is worth it. So 2-drop Merlin Squirrel, so he's a 2/1 with 1 lore point. Whenever you play this character and when he leaves play, look at your top card, put it on either the top or the bottom of your deck. Again, he's useful if you really wanted to use some stuff with Madam Mim, but I really don't think he's going to make the cut. There are better 2-drops that you could be playing in this deck. The Kuzco that we saw earlier, for an example, but there's much better 2-drops you can play in this slot, so I wouldn't bother with this one. So 4-drop Uninkable Peter Pan Shadow, not sewn on. So 2 power, 3 toughness with evasive. He also has rush, and your other characters with rush gain evasive. 2 lore points as well. So if you build around it, this card would be very cool. So obviously you're going to be playing a pure rush deck almost to get good value from it. You could pair it with the Dr. Facilier in the first set, the 7-drop, and just crash all of your rush stuff into your opponent's stuff. So yeah, it's probably worth it, but it needs to have the right deck around it. You couldn't just slot this into a regular old Amethyst list and kind of expect it to do amazing things. Right, so here's the Pinocchio we mentioned earlier. So he's a 2-drop Uninkable 1/1 with 3 lore points, no ability. This card is perfect in an aggro list, especially if you can protect it with a bodyguard, but use it with the Jiminy Cricket as well. I think this card is going to be quite dangerous if you are on the play rather than on the draw, especially if you can protect it. So 5-drop Uninkable Pinocchio on the run. So he's a 3/3 with shift 3. Whenever you play this character, you may return chosen character or item with cost 3 or less to their player's hand. 2 lore points as well. So it's not too bad, this one. The fact that if you're using the Pinocchio we just saw on turn 2 and then shifting this on turn 3 after you quest with the Pinocchio, it leaves itself vulnerable straight away. But is it worth bouncing your opponent's stuff that early in the game? Maybe not. But we'll see. It might see some play, but I'm not entirely convinced by this one. Okay, another Pinocchio. So 2-drop uninkable 1/1 talkative puppet, 1 lore point. Whenever you play this character, you may exert chosen opposing character. So it is a freeze on a body, but it's not particularly a well-statted one. Might be useful in a sealed event or a draft event just to make your opponent's thing vulnerable so you can attack over it. But it's not constructed playable at all, in my opinion. Everyone loves this Winnie the Pooh card. I think it's the artwork. So yeah, 5-drop, 5/5 with 2 lore points. Winnie the Pooh Honey Wizard. No ability at all. Again, useful for a sealed or draft event, but there's no deck that this card would actually go into in constructed play. It's just a fun little card that you can use in casual formats. Right, so 6-drop Yzma, Scary Beyond All Reason, 4/4 with shift 4. 2 lore points, and whenever you play this character, shuffle another chosen character card into the player's deck. That player draws 2. So this was one of the most controversial cards in the whole set for me, because I first read it and I was like, do I really want to give my opponent 2 cards to shuffle back their card? But if you read it carefully, you can shuffle back your own cards too. So why is that important? Because generally, if you're playing Amethyst, you're playing some of the Merlin forms, which this card does trigger. So for example, with Merlin Rabbit, you would get the 1 card from the Merlin Rabbit when it leaves the board to draw a card. You would also then draw 2 from this. But in a pinch, you can use it on your opponent's things just to draw 2 cards. Worth mentioning, the 5-drop Mufasa from the Amber spoiler. You can shuffle it back into your opponent's deck and they will not get a card from it. So it's worth that. This card does break Hades, Lord of the Underworld loops as well, because you are sending the Hades back to the deck. So it's quite useful, but the thing to mention, it's not optional. So you have to send one of your characters back or one of your opponent's characters back. You cannot, you can't just choose not to do it. You have to. So just bear that in mind before you put this card down. Okay, so you got 3-drop Yzma. So it's a 3 power, 4 toughness with 1 lore point. So this card exists so you can shift the Yzma we just saw from this card. It's got good stats. It's a villain as well, which does work with one of the cards in the Ruby set. Is it actually worth playing? Probably not. You probably wouldn't play Wardrobe in a lot of lists nowadays. So you're probably just not going to bother with this one and just play the 6-drop on its own. But if you need a villain with good stats, then why not? Sure. Okay, so 3-drop Uninkable Gruesome and Grim. It is a song, so character costs 3 or more can sing this song for free. Player character will cost 4 or less for free. They gain rush. At the end of the turn, banish them. So it is the 5-drop Madam Mim just on a song. It's uninkable though. If you're not going to be playing the 5-drop Madam Mim, you're not going to be playing this card. It probably isn't worth it, especially as it's a -1 in terms of card advantage. But it's designed, I guess, to, again, drop the Merlin cards, then bounce them back to hand so you don't have to banish the card. Just a little ruling. So if you do drop the 3-drop Aladdin and then play the 7-drop Aladdin over it, it will still get banished at the end of the turn. So just bear that in mind if you're thinking of using that combo. So 1-drop I'm Stuck action card, chosen exerted card or character, can't ready at the start of their next turn. It's pack filler, it's not useful, it's a -1. You're probably not even going to use this in sealed or draft, even if you're desperate a little bit for cards. It's just not worth it. Okay, so 2-drop Inkable Legend of the Sword in the Stone, so 2-cost song, so a character who costs 2 or more can sing this song for free. Chosen character gains Challenger +3. Is there a real difference between this card and all the ones in the set 1 that just give +3 power? Not really. The fact it's a song is pretty good, but again, it's just a -1. So unless you are trading up ridiculously well, like you're taking a shifted character, then fine, it's useful, but the chances are it's not, so it's going to end up just being a -1 in terms of card advantage, so it's probably not worth playing. Okay, so 4-drop Uninkable Binding Contract is an item, so it has the ability exert this item and exert one of your characters, exert chosen character. So it's basically an item form to turn anything of yours into the 3-drop Elsa from the first set, so you can exert a character to make them vulnerable. If you can play or use a deck that can utilise it, fair enough, but 3-drop Elsa just didn't see that much play anyway. So chances are this card is probably not worth the bother, especially as it's uninkable as well. So 1-drop Uninkable Croquet Mallet, so it's an item. Banish this item, chosen character gains Rush this turn. Again, it's a -1. Giving a character Rush is generally not worth it. If you want to play Rush, then there's plenty of Rush characters in this colour already, so just use them. This card's just probably not worth the bother. Okay, so 2-drop Uninkable Perplexing Signposts. Banish this item, return chosen character of yours to your hand. So it's designed to work with the Merlins, it's designed to work with maybe the Madam Mim stuff. Even like if it's going to be if it's going to be removed at the end of the turn, you can always bounce it back to your hand, so it isn't. Again, it's one of those cards that's not worth it. There's plenty of stuff in the set already that can return your stuff to your hand without you spending a card doing so. 3-drop Uninkable the Sorcerer's Spellbook item. So exert it and pay 1 ink, gain 1 lore. So this was one of the first cards in the set that I fell in love with. This card just screams control to me. So I've put it into Ruby Amethyst. So you literally do not need to have a board presence anymore in terms of characters. If you're in a mirror match and you're literally just removing every single character from your opponent's board and they're doing the same thing back to you, it doesn't matter because you're ticking away at this every single turn, getting towards your win condition. So you literally can just focus on just removing your opponent's stuff and just ticking this away. So yes, given Ruby Amethyst a nice little tool to just continue away, because beforehand you used to just fight over the board and hope that something stuck so you could quest with it. Now you don't need to. Right, that is all the Amethyst cards. So as you can see, we're going to be doing Emerald tomorrow. So be sure to give us a like and subscribe, because like I say, there's lots more coming, lots of deck profiles, lots of gameplay. But yeah, that's it. Thank you guys, thank you for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow. Bye!